Okay, I'm going to set up real quick. Everyone in this room, think about the questions that you have in Law and AI. Ideally a novel question, a question you think maybe is only occurring to you, but a question that you know is a deep question. We're all going to go around sharing our question, and that'll structure the dinner conversation for the rest of the evening. So have a quiet moment with yourself for the next 30 seconds. Think about a question. Okay, let's structure our evening. So the plan is to go left to right clockwise around the table. Please speak your question in 20 seconds or less. I'll try to keep pace. I'll be typing them up on the board. If I make a mistake, tell me the mistake and I'll correct it.
So the question would be like, if contracts are based on relationships. I mean, we agree in real life about something, then we put it on paper, right? Of course, we have decided to use this language because of the past. But my question would be, the future would be probably, language would be code, right? If we agree on something, why do we need to write something which is very difficult to understand for both the parties? So, and this is smart contracts, kind of, right? So, how long is it going to take to get there? Like, now we're using LLMs to make it easy to understand everything, but the real end game is we don't need a contract, right? Or the contract is code. So, I'm not sure if it's a question, but anyways.
Okay, wait, more than 20 seconds.
Sorry.
Yeah. Do keep it to 20 seconds. Yeah,
So
I appreciate that question.
My question is, I wonder how the formal methods like computational law will join forces with AI technologies like LLMs, because in programming synthesis space, we see they go together, right? Like you generate a code and then you have a verifier, and it goes in a loop. So I wonder if there's a parallel in the legal space for that.
Okay, good, going.
Yeah, so my question is more about like the problem that John showed in his slides. Like, law is about what you cannot do. And so computationally, that's pretty expensive because you need to check every single law to know. How could we inverse that and make it on what we can do and maybe make it more efficient?
Great, keep going.
My question is about our motivations for bringing AI into the law, and specifically in AI for law. And I really want us to examine those motivations, and are those motivations what's driving them? I want us to think about that.
Okay, next.
Ask, how far are we, kind of from a technical standpoint, of being able to create a product that analyzes case law, say Delaware case law with respect to fiduciary duties, where you could put a prompt in and it kind of gives the right answer based on case law?
Great, next.
My question is, so much of writing is actually having to think, and as you write, you're actually changing how you think. How do we stop that from atrophying? And what does it mean for the evolution of law if that does atrophy?
That's amazing. I have that question too. Next.
Is it possible to build an alignment system that can't be inverted, right? Or subverted? So instead of saying, like, what does the law allow us to do, or what does the law not allow us to do, I instead go and I say, I want to do this, help me get away with it. Or I want to do this, and I'm willing to take up to $2 million fine risk as long as I can make 50 million and make it happen. How do we build an alignment system that can't be misaligned, I guess you would say?
Yeah. Please.
Yeah, so mine's on automated adjudication, like sort of like normatively, like the ethics of that, should we do that? It's related to someone's questions to me earlier around like if we're just constantly like analyzing like the outcome, is that gonna like degrade like human interaction?
Sorry, explain that. I don't understand.
So like if you could just at any given time have just in time automated adjudication of like a potential conflict, is that like a good or bad thing?
Oh, I see. Like, I see. So as I'm talking to you,
Like,
and
AI
LLM
would
is
do
constantly
that.
checking,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
did you violate the
That's
law?
interesting.
I see.
Yeah.
Black Mirror episode incoming.
Okay, keep going.
My question is about how do you actually evaluate quality legal work? I think right now the way that we understand legal work is pretty implicit. So how lawyers say that this is a good contract versus not, you might have precedent language, but the difference between a senior associate and a partner is something that we haven't been able to capture explicitly. So how do you actually evaluate it is something I'm interested in.
Quality. Okay, great. Next question.
What keeps me up at night is a lot of these discussions are often in small dinners in Silicon Valley. It's often in even like in investment committee. It's all these small groups. But my thought is, how do you bring the rest of the population who are not in this conversation? AI, let alone AI legal, right? And I think, how do you bring the rest of the population to have input but not have too much noise where it's not productive? And one specific, I would say, case study is media and entertainment. So you have all of Hollywood thinking about scripting and coverage and all this stuff that's happening. But when you start deciding what is right and what is wrong, how do you get all the writers that are not in this room to actually believe in it and care for it and build trust in it? So that's what keeps me up at night.
And would they be informing laws or just
I'm not
norms?
sure. Like, I don't know if they should be informing it, providing input. Should they be part of the process, or how so, or you know, are they? How do you bring them along?
I see. Painfully. Our next.
I say that the full question that would be like more something related to AI, ethic and law. Like, should the ethic of AI be based on law or more?
I see. Yeah, I feel like that's a good question. Behind you.
I guess my question is also about evaluation and validation. So like, let's assume we've figured out really great ways to validate the performance of, for example, like autonomous agents, making sure that they obey the law. I think there's like a low level, just like implementation question there, like who's responsible for that work? So does that fall on governments to provide regulatory frameworks? Is there like an opportunity for someone in the industry to actually provide that kind of validation as a service?
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, and at present, plausibly, the companies will get sued if they do something bad. And will hire industry works. But yeah, that's interesting. Validation as a service. Yeah, there's already a number of companies working on this kind of validation as a service problem. So, go ahead. He had already.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, once again, my mind's kind of bouncing from question to question. So one of the things that we've been talking about is, this concept of embedded law. So embedding the law in, sort of the everyday situations that we're facing or the systems that we're using, self-driving car and so on. And this is it has been sort of pretty much an ideal, that we see some kind of parts of it now becoming real. But sort of going to John's point, it's like, first of all, how can we do this and bring it more to the human decision making, right? Like, rather than full automation, how do we bring at least the legal information to the human decision maker in all these areas where we face legal decisions? And so my question is mostly, how do we do that? How can we use large language models to do that? But then, John's question on that is like, well, how will it affect us then once we have that knowledge? Or, once, especially when it's then connected with like, perhaps even, central enforcement of the law or something, right? When people don't have a choice anymore as to, whether they want to be compliant, yes or no. What does that do to us as, as actants in the world of law? Anyway, so that's one. And then Anyways,
That's great. More than 20
that's a
seconds.
lot, yeah. Okay, let's keep it at one.
How do we protect our God-given right to GPUs? Or, in other words, prevent regulatory capture and monopolization by top AI labs?
Regulatory capture. Regulatory capture and what?
Monopolization.
Monopolization. Is this a legal question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we go to natural law,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
we use that, like statutory, constitutional, but just inalienable. I like it.
Wonderful.
My question is just around like, there's a lot of people at this table doing really interesting work around this, but like, realistically, are we on the path to having some like unified API for the law, or some unified program language standard for the law? And if so, what are the risks of losing out on some of the nuances?
Of making mistakes in creating that standard? Or
Yeah. Or I guess like losing out on, I don't know, some of the nuances and the just between the lines in the language. Yeah.
Oh. Wonderful.
My question is around liability. So, to what extent should different stakeholders be held liable for LLMs? So, their creators, distributors, and users. Basically, to what extent can the outputs be used on each of those?
Users, stakeholders, and you said distributors?
Users, creators, distributors.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I guess I have a question, which is, I guess, how can we build generative legal systems that are functional? EX, I create a new country. I want real-time interviews with citizens who interact with the legal system, interact with existing laws, to rewrite the laws to make them more effective.
So will this all become a master prompt now?
Sure, yeah, let's do it.
I have one. Already discussed it for us.
Jeremy, Peter has a question.
Oh, it's your question. So,
So
yeah, I mean, my plan was to have a dinner conversation, but we can just have the agents go at it.
I also want a book on this, like, right? We're going to generate one.
Oh, of
Pierre
course.
didn't contribute a question. I want to hear Pierre's question.
Yeah, my question is, who will fix the law? Because I spent like the last 10 years trying to model insurance contract or legal text, and I haven't yet found one contract where there is no blatant double negation, contradiction. So the next step before we use the law with AI to enforce it automatically, who will fix the law?
Yeah, I guess I like this question. How can we, I'm going to add to mine and make comprehensive update suggestions to every legal body that are reliably accepted. Because the AI should fix the law. Okay, yeah, GP4.
Let's go.
Stanford. It's right there.
Why make it trying to impersonate one of us? Why not just give it the questions and let it be itself?
Who is GPT?
Yeah.
What personality?
GPT existentialism over here.
He doesn't want an answer. He just wants us to talk about it.
Jeremy, one question from
More
here.
and more questions, that's awesome.
We can come back in 10 minutes. That's quite fast.
Solid.